live conversation and okay. Of course I didn't. Oh, it's slow. And okay, it's live. So hello, Irene. Hello, everyone who's watching. We just had a little technical hiccups in the morning, so I'm just hoping that's gonna go well without too much interruption. The internet has been funky this morning. I don't know what was going on, but here we are, and I have Irene Fehr with us, and she's correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're a sex and intimacy coach, and you, yeah, do you work with women or you work with couples as well?
I work primarily with couples and couples in monogamous long-term relationships. And I work with single women who want to be in a monogamous long-term relationship.
Yes. Got it. Yeah, and I'm Iryna Aronov. I'm a licensed therapist here in California. Also work with couples and women and men on mostly relationship issues. That seems to be like the biggest thing right now, right? Is to so many people are struggling. Well, not just now, at all times. So today's topic, we wanted to talk about the desire, long-term desire in a monogamous committed relationships. And first, I want to refer to that video that you have, Irene, on your website, and kind of weave it in a conversation about 3 types of sex. I'm assuming, there's, and maybe you can just talk briefly about each one and how it connects to desire in a long-term relationship.
Sure. Well, I'll start with kind of the big idea behind this video and why these 3 types of sex really matter. And the big idea is that sex naturally and inevitably dies in a long-term relationship. Sexual desire. At some point, for some people, it's years into the relationship, for others, it's months. But there's a natural death of the kind of passion and the kind of sexual desire that we experience in the beginning of the relationship. And traditionally, that's seen as such a horrible thing. And also like women losing our libido in a sexual relationship, that's seen as this terrible thing, this terrible predicament that couples end up in. And people feel a lot of shame, compared to the passion and excitement for each other in the beginning. They end up feeling the shame, the self-blame, or blaming each other for this thing that happens. And so the 3 types of sex actually show us that this death is natural, and it's a good thing because it's a death of the 2 types that we default into naturally, that are instinct-based and biology-based. And there's this 3rd type that we get to create and design that lasts through the decades and through children, menopause, midlife, career changes, aging, all these things. And so that's again the context, the big idea behind these 3 types.
And so the last one, the last connected sex that you call it is the one that's actually lasts the longest, right? Or lasts forever, right? Is it the yeah? So the idea is to get to that kind of sex,
and it has yes, to cultivate it, to develop it. It's not necessarily a progression of time as much as it is a choice. When you see the natural drift that happens with couples after some period of time. So in the beginning, everyone is excited, there's a lot of sexual attraction, a lot of passion, and then things start to get less. So there's a little bit less passion in your kisses, a little bit less of a spark for your partner where they walk into the door, a little bit less interest in touching each other. So there's this drift of passion, right? This drift away from each other that starts to happen. And this is also where women's libido will start to shift. Like she's not as interested in sex anymore. And like I said earlier, this is the point where couples start freaking out. Like, what's happening to us? We're losing the love. We're losing sexual attraction to each other. Maybe we should open the relationship. Maybe we should, you know, put it up because there's something wrong with us.
Yeah, I see like some couples start to avoid the issue, so they sort of not looking at it, and they cannot, sometimes they're not looking at it for years, right? They just kind of like, oh, it's natural, that's what happens, it's okay, like that's what happens, you have to deal with it, and they sort of go on forever sometimes. And some couples, they freak out, like you said, and they're like, we need to do something. Of course you cannot be excited about one person, so let's open it up, let's bring others in, and that's usually the course. And not so many people are actually looking into like, okay, what can I do in this relationship to make it spicy again and bring passion back? Not so many people actually do this. It's interesting.
Yeah, and it is, like you said, there's either so much anxiety that they don't want to look at it and they default into being roommates and being okay with no sex, or there's this freak out, and that's because this is such a in a way a difficult decision. You have to have trust and hope in creating what it is that you want. In a way, it's a spiritual journey. It's like, it's trusting that the thing that you want actually exists and you can create it.
And also allowing yourself that, because like what I mentioned kind of in my post, and what I've been realizing, that sexual energy, it's so primal for our aliveness and fullness of life. But some people are not, they kind of settling for less, they kind of settling for the dullness, and they rationalize, right? They're like, well, it's okay, I can find joy in other things, and they sort of again make deals with themselves. But actually, for me, I don't know, maybe it works for others, but for me, I feel like, no, I deserve the fullness of life. So sort of coming into like feeling that you're worth it, right? Or deserving the sex life or the life, because it's not just about sex, it's about life, right? Fully living.
Exactly. Life, self-expression, connection, and surrender to another human being.
Yes,
all these
trust.
things. And if we look at trust, exactly. And if we look at the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, sex is in three categories, mapping to my three types of sex. So there's the very primal biological need for sex, as in sexual release and also making babies. There's sex for validation and connection, expression of love and feeling like you're important to another person. And then sex is also at the top of the hierarchy in self-expression and self-actualization and reaching your highest potential. And so that's where my three types of sex also map. Friction sex is instinctual, biological. It has its role to get us very mobilized to make a baby and reproduce our species. So there's a lot of force in it, a lot of passion, but just to get it done very quickly. There's again validation sex in that area of the hierarchy of needs, where we need connection with other people, we need love, we need to feel like we belong. And so that's sex that's more around merging with each other and feeling loved and cared about. But that too is fraught with issues, because when we love someone, we also then feel the fear of losing them. We need to belong, and we fear, of course, losing that belonging. And so what happens with validation sex and how it naturally falls apart is we end up getting into a battle of attachment wounds. It starts that sex is so necessary to feel loved and to feel important that it starts being this push and pull for it and grab it. The avoidant type starts to pull away because this is a really like feeling like they're feeling like they are being taken away, taken from. And so it starts,
Consumed, right? Yeah, consumed
yeah,
by
exactly. That's the
anxious
word I was.
types who are, yeah.
Yeah, and so sex then becomes again this battlefield of attachment wounds, and naturally the avoidant type wants to avoid sex and hide. The anxious type gets grabby and very excited, and then the actual sex starts to go away because who wants to have it in this very intense um, toxic pattern, right? Because it's just
Because it
so much better.
becomes, yeah, it sort of becomes as a, we use it as a like a balm to our wounds. So sex is not about sex, it's about like, do you love me? Like the anxious would be, can you have sex so you prove you love me? And avoidant is like, well, I don't want to really do this, gonna. So it's not about pleasure per se.
It's not about pleasure. It's not about true connection between two human beings. It's about need. I need your love, and I need you to stop pushing me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's this constant tug of war. And so here it produces so much anxiety. That dynamic you mentioned earlier, either they're fighting about it or they just default into roommate status because it's just so much anxiety that we're not going to deal with it at all. We're going to collude in silence and not talk about it and do more other things to make up for the lack of connection that you actually get from
Right.
intimacy and sex.
Mm-hmm.
And so these two types, again, they're very instinctual and natural. They're driven by our needs, they're driven by our biology, by all the different hormones that happen at these different stages. With friction, there's with friction sex, there's sexual attraction, there's the newness. Wow, someone likes me, like they find me attractive, that feels really good. So there's a strong pull for it, and we default into it, but it naturally goes away again because
Mm-hmm.
once you have sex, the biological need is mission accomplished.
Right. And that's the
That's
sex for like one night stand or with someone you just found attractive, but you didn't get to know them, their personality. So it's sort of like this purely chemistry, just
exactly.
mating. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for many couples, it's also the first couple of times they have sex, especially if they're having sex early in their relationship, because everything is so exciting and new in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some couples never move out of friction sex, especially
Mm-hmm.
if couples are having sex under the influence of alcohol or drugs, even soft drugs like pot. They're connecting on this superficial level, not opening themselves up to vulnerability. So they can maintain friction sex. But again, it's naturally going to drop in passion, in excitement. And couples are going to look for external things like toys and porn and all the different positions they can twist their body into because they're looking for that excitement, but it's
Mm-hmm.
truly it's superficial, it's external to them.
Right. And that's a lot of
But then
times
of course if
when the passion dies out, that's when and they having friction sex. They're not a lot of times going deeper. They just say, okay, we need something else. We need another fantasy, or they need this new technique or new toy, and go shopping, right? And it doesn't work. Eventually,
yeah,
just nothing brings
yeah,
that spark back. You can't, like you can't force it.
exactly. And again, that spark is really biological, so no toy, no position is going to create that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like once it happens, happens, it's done, it's gone. And we have to embrace that. And that's kind of my big message from all of this is we have to embrace these stages as natural and normal, and then make a choice to move beyond them. And the same thing, the love stage, the validation sex stage, you know, once a couple falls in love with each other, they enter the stage. And again, it's driven by the hormones of limerence, right? Love and dopamine, serotonin go up. We feel like, wow, we're so important. But again, that's helps us mate and bond and stay together to protect the family. But it, again, like I was saying earlier, there's natural pitfalls. There's natural things that get in the way. And so couples, again, find themselves in this place thinking that something has gone wrong in their relationship. And what I want to reinforce is that everything thus far has been completely normal and natural. And I invite my couples to embrace this death of sex. They run these sexes, these types of sex run their course. And now you have a choice to create something that's deeper, that's intentional, and also that specifically um, focuses. I love this part of Esther Perel's work around needing to see each other as individuals. We need to see our partners not as my husband or wife or the mom or the dad of my children, but as an individual who's themselves, who's whole, who has their own desires and needs and fantasies and their erotic flavor. And we need to see ourselves this way too. And so we relate as two individuals. And that's where eroticism can happen. When we learn to see ourselves this way, and when we can relate to each other and from a place of curiosity, like, who is this person? What is it that they want? What gets that spark in their eyes, rather than I need them for my orgasm, or I need them for validation.
It feels to me, and it feels to me, to get to this stage, we really need to do a lot of work on ourselves, because we need to be able to have that differentiate self that you say, that we have ability to parent ourselves. So if our like wounded child gets freaked out, we can calm ourselves so we don't cling to the other to do that. And so I'm just curious about and how do you guide couples through the journey, because it seems like it's a lot of work to get there.
Absolutely, it is a lot of work, and it's one of the most profound kind of work that I've experienced in my own life, because of course I went through that myself, and the work that I do with clients. And one of the concepts that I've created is this idea of needing the environment in the relationship to be safe, to be risky. So the safety piece is about attachment and helping clients understand their attachment wounds and attachment needs. So that creates the safety. This is EFT work, Sue Johnson's EFT work, right, around attachments. And then help them cultivate the differentiation piece. Because it's very hard to differentiate yourself when you're under threat all the time, when you don't understand your attachment needs and you're constantly either grabbing or withdrawing. So in my work, first and foremost, we work on the safety piece and on attachments. And then again, I introduce a lot of experiential exercises and work to create differentiation for each person, to not only know how to self-soothe themselves, but also know what they up and who they are as individuals.
Right, because it
becomes a play.
I just love how you describe,
it's a play of those things.
yeah, we do need both. We do need the safety, the security, and feeling you're safe in the relationship. But if we just have that, that's not exciting enough, right? It's just comfortable. And so we need, then after we found that safety, I think that's where like EFT work stops. And that's where like Esther Perel's
Mhm.
work, where she brings into like, okay, yeah, now you're feeling safe, but now you go do go find yourself, in a container with that safety. And it's exactly how a child differentiates from a mother. When the child is safe with a mother enough, then they go and venture out and become their own individuals. So it's sort of like repairing that wound that we didn't have, right, with our parents. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And when you have that safety, yeah, in sex, you can take risks to say what you really want,
Mm-hmm.
which includes what you want more of and what you want less of, and saying like, this is not okay. I won't, I won't participate in this. And of course, differentiation is also showing yourself, showing your inner experience. It could be fears, or it could be showing your real enjoyment of something. One of the most vulnerable things in sex is to actually show our partners that we're really enjoying ourselves, because that
Mm-hmm.
enjoyment is so vulnerable. What if I enjoy this and it gets taken away? What if I'm humiliated while I'm really relaxed and surrendered and enjoying myself? What if my enjoyment doesn't fit your idea of it?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the kind of risks that when couples are willing to make them, that creates an intense level of passion in a
Mm-hmm.
different way. Not the
Yeah.
biological things that we experience in the beginning, but the very mature, conscious type of passion that you can create if you practice relationships as a practice. I'm a practitioner of yoga and meditation, and I look at sex as a practice. How can we commit to it and devote ourselves to the practice? How can we discipline ourselves to do things, have conversations, uh, practice touch outside of like the kind of make out to sex dynamic? How can we really make different choices around sex?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's
Yeah.
how connection sex gets created. As like I said, as a practice, as an intention. It's not going to happen haphazardly. You're not going to walk into connection sex by meeting the right partner. You might meet the right partner with whom you can create it, but it's not a matter of finding it. You don't find it.
Yeah.
Just as I
That's
believe
the
you don't just find,
that's the biggest
yeah, you
myth,
don't find
right? Like that if you find the right person, it's just gonna happen, right? Like that just it just falls in place. And it's, yeah, that's the biggest, I think it's coming out of like this magical solution idea that's like it's going to be given to you, and it's instead of something to be cultivated consciously, like you said, with intention, with a lot of presence, with a lot of vulnerability, with a lot of courage. I have another question for you in terms of lower desire, but I'm curious about how you work with either women or with couples who come in and say a woman, she just says like, well, I'm just not interested. It's not something she presents asexual, right? Or she presents like, I just don't want it. And the partner, of course, is or sometimes it can be man. I don't, I don't know the dynamic. I guess it can be both. But basically, like, how do you work with that if there's a lack of interest on one partner's end, and they just say like, well, I'm too tired. I have, kids. I have two little ones myself. I can understand how they say, well, I don't have time. I don't have energy. It's just not on my mind. And kind of what do you do with that? I guess, yeah.
well, we can spend a whole hour on this
Yeah,
or
okay,
days.
next time. Yeah.
But in short, I want to point to actually connection sex as the solution to this scenario that you painted. Connection sex, because it's so intentional and deliberate, actually is the only container within which women can truly realize our sexual desire. And that's because there's room to discuss our needs and talk about how we actually experience things, and also give ourselves space and time for that. Women's sexual desire is responsive. I love the work of Emily Nagoski, where she delineates how women's sexual desire is responsive to her environment, primarily so for the most part. And so our sexual desire, I think of it, women's sexual desire as being a flower, and there's a tight bud, and you need time for it to slowly open up, like a rose would open up. We can't just pull the petals apart to open the rose. You'll just have a pile of petals. And
so it's environment with relationship, also like environment within like how woman relates to herself, right? Because if she feels like she doesn't deserve pleasure, then she's not gonna explore what gives her pleasure, right? Or if she feels like there's no time for her.
Exactly. And there's no time. And also the other types of sex are so fast. They're all about passionately getting to penetration and to orgasm. And for most women, that works a couple of times, but we need that spaciousness, and we need time to, yes, explore ourselves and do it on our own time and on our own timeline. And so with connection sex, again, there's space for a woman saying, this is what I need. And I need us to explore touch, and I need us to go slowly, and I need us to practice touch outside of, again, that kind of fast, excited stage when you just want to rush to penetration. And what my experiences with myself and with pretty much all women that I work with is that women have never truly experienced this very soft, gentle, beautiful blossoming of their sexuality. That most women experience sex where, come on, you gotta go because the man is turned on. Men's arousal happens so much faster. They're built that way. It's not better or worse. It is how it is. But most women move on the man's timeline and never really experience the kind of sex that's nourishing, the kind of sex that opens them up. And naturally, so many women don't want that kind of sex, or so, excuse me, they don't want the other kind of sex that's fast, that doesn't provide them nourishment.
But maybe they don't know how to ask for what they need, right? Or they feel afraid, or they feel they need to please, right? Or they're not like owning that, like, no, I actually need you to take that 20 minutes and just stroke my back, right? Or like kiss my neck, or explore.
Or I'll be very explicit, or take 40 minutes to stroke my pussy, to stroke the clitoris as well, right, as everything else. And I know for myself, I had never, until I experienced it, I had never imagined the kind of sex that's possible. And so I didn't have the words. I couldn't say what I wanted because I've never experienced it. And so that's what I see with so many women, and couples certainly as well. But women is the kind of sex that's available on the menu is not worth wanting, but it doesn't mean that there's no other menu.
Yeah, it's exactly what I saw as well, is that if a woman is not interested in sex, it's probably she hasn't discovered the pleasurable sex worth wanting. And so the kind of sex that she has in her mind is not, it's like, well, it's not that attractive, so I'm not gonna make time for it, I'm not gonna invest my energy into it because it's just okay. And it's sort of like getting through the motions and getting to orgasm, and not necessarily her orgasm, right? It's like, well, just okay, just it's sort of like, I don't know, I mean, we're both from Eastern Europe, and it's a lot of like chauvinistic, mindset that's like, well, it's about him, and then sex is for the male, and so he came, and oh, that's good. I'm a good girl, and I can go to sleep, right?
You've done your duty. Yep.
Yeah, you're like, and he's not gonna cheat because he got it home. Woohoo!
And also to add to this too is it's not only sex that she enjoys, but also that works specifically for her body. But all of our bodies are very different, and we need different things, different pace, different kinds of touch, different kind of attention. And so that again falls into this area of exploration. What does your body want? What does your body want when you don't have children? What does your body want after you have had children? When your whole makeup, hormonal makeup, physical makeup of your body changes. What does your body need and want when you're perimenopausal or menopausal? What does your body need when you're later, older, after, in your later years? Your body's going to change, and we need to consciously and intentionally, continuously discover what it is that it wants. And if we're applying the same sex to all these different stages of life, you're going to have a mismatch. And again, why would a woman invest energy and interest in something that she thinks is not going to be pleasant or enjoyable?
Right. So it requires constant attunement to yourself and your body, right? Like constant attention. So it's an act of self-care, self-love, basically. So the sexual practice for a woman, I don't know, I'm kind of speaking more for women because it's a reflection of your relationship with yourself and how much you allow yourself pleasure. I think has been a big revelation for me. That's the case, the more
it's been my journey.
And do you recommend for women to explore it first with themselves or with a partner, or do you have like practices you recommend for women to do that? Or
So here's my take on working on this, and this is why I specifically work with couples and single women, and I didn't mention women who are in a couple. Fundamentally, sex is relational, and it's a joint issue. It's something that's created together. And so my first and foremost recommendation for women who are in a relationship is to do this together with their partners. Because think of a couple, or think of the same car. If one wheel wants to go this way and another wheel of the same car wants to go this way, you're going to have a problem, because the car is a system. It goes in one direction. And so that's where couples work is incredibly important. Now, it's not realistic for a lot of women because they don't have partners who are willing to do this work together. And so then I know for me, I offer an online program for women, including coupled women who want to start the exploration for themselves. It's my 5-step blueprint for pleasurable sex online program, where it's all self-learning. Awesome. It's all via videos. And it's a very extensive self-learning journey, self-exploration journey to discover your own pleasure, and to also start to build your own voice in being able to speak to your partner about this. And then, of course, women who are not in a relationship, it's a wonderful time to do this work, because then you end up attracting and choosing partners who can meet you in this journey, who have the courage and the wherewithal to do this work together, or just who match you where you are at your level and are kind of on the same page. They understand these principles. But
Yeah.
all in all, it is an exploration, a personal exploration journey of differentiation, understanding who you are, and finding yourself both individually and in a couple.
Mm-hmm. And if say a woman is doing this work and changing her, like claiming her pleasure, or she's asking for the pleasure, and what if the partner is not able to do this work with her? I know that creates, I mean, both sides, it creates it's a lot of pain, right? Because one partner has grown and the other one hasn't. And so, yeah, how would you?
Yeah. You know, I don't have an answer for that, because
Yeah,
it's a predicament that
case by case.
case by case, and also, I mean, it's kind of a naturally very difficult predicament where couples start to diverge, especially in growth or priorities, and not being able to meet each other. And certainly in some cases that means divorce or splitting up, because they just can't provide, one partner can't provide what the other person needs. And in other, the partner who's doing the work might be able to find ways to connect to their partner and let them know that this is important and bring them on board. But ultimately, that second partner needs to want to do this work for themselves.
Yeah.
This is the key. There's a lot of people who will go to therapy or coaching for their partners because they love them. And I find that only takes the couple so far. They need to want to do the personal growth for themselves. They need to want to create, whether it's connection, sex, or whatever, like the end result for themselves as much as they want to do it for the partner.
Yeah, some people do it for the partner and some people do it for the kids. Like they say, well, I don't want to split up because we have kids together, and so I'm gonna go and kind of invest. I mean, they go, so to say, like, look, I'm doing everything I can, but inside they're just not wanting to do this work. So it's this case usually doesn't work unless it changes.
Yeah. And with sex in particular, like the point that I made earlier about needing to have two individual people with their own desires to create this erotic connection, well, that's where the desire to do this work comes in. It has to be, I want to grow, I want to connect this way, I want to be vulnerable and show myself. And that's where the passion comes from. So if I want to do this for my partner, that's going to create a very lackluster sexual connection. It's going to,
exactly.
Yeah, my partner is here to do
because
the
it's
deed.
validation. Yeah, it's validation stage all over again. Okay, I'll do it for you.
Exactly. Just default back to validation. I'm here for my partner. I'm here to make the love work, for the relationship work. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
it's hard.
Yeah, it's a hard work. I feel like that's that's what a lot of therapy is about. It's what coaching, the type of coaching that you do is about, because you have a background as a therapist as well, right? So you kind of understand attachment and the deep foundational work. Because I do not see how it's possible to do without doing the attachment work. To be honest, I don't know how any couples work can be done without attachment, because it's such a foundational piece.
Well, thank you for that. I'm not a therapist. I don't have a therapy background.
Oh, okay. Somehow.
When I learned about it, when I learned about attachment theory and especially Sue Johnson's work, intuitively, for me, it was like I landed on a treasure trove of information that would help my couples. So I started with coaching training and sex coaching training, and then this piece just completely revolutionized my approach and my effectiveness with couples. So
yeah, that was the same.
Where my understanding and training comes from.
Yeah, same for me with Sue Johnson training, and for people who don't know, they can ask me about it, and I'll happy to tell them more. It's attachment focused treatment, and before that, there's a lot of focus, even in therapists, on differentiation, on becoming self. And they will create like a lot of anxiety for couples because, because they don't have the safety to do that. And so it completely, I mean, changed my relationship. It changed who I am. It's, and that was already like when I was like 10 years in the therapy world. So it's really crucial that piece changes really everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been so great. I mean, I feel like just we are on the same page with you. I just feel like really aligned in the interests, and so it's been just like yay, connected sex. Okay, we can get there. We can help people to get there. I
feel
will
like
share.
I
Yeah, go
feel
ahead.
like we can geek out on this for like a couple. I was going to say we can geek out on this for a couple more hours because we have this natural natural understanding of the same thing.
I would love to do that. Maybe we'll do like a series. We fixed the connection issue and we'll figure it out, and we'll do another one. I would love to dive into, especially for women, like based maybe focused on just women's sexuality and talking more about that. Maybe we can connect. Yeah, and our viewers can give it questions, and somebody in the group. I will post your information and link to your programs. That's such an invaluable resource for everyone to have you as a guide. And yeah, I'm excited to do more of this with you because it's been a lot of fun.
Same here. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay. And if people have questions, they can tag you, and I'm sure you'll respond, right? Yeah.
Very happy to continue the conversation in the group and with whatever questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Irene. And yeah, we'll be in touch. Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.